Hello and welcome to the SHU Pathways 2025 episode 2 of our podcast. Today it's me and Ben presenting. My name's also Ben. We hope you've been looking at the social media, following online. Dare I say it, it's come round very fast. Today we've got a very special guest. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Charlie and I'm one of the employability advisors and I specialise in the department.
Oh, that's brilliant. Could you also tell us a bit about how you got into your role at Sheffield Hallam?
Yeah, so I've worked at Hallam for quite a few years now, more than I probably care to admit. So I started off at Hallam as a graduate intern and then I managed to, so obviously that's only a year contract, so I managed to get an admin job with the enterprise team here at Hallam. I was doing that for 3 years and then I did my careers qualification and obviously became a careers advisor, and I've been doing that for like about 3.5 years now, so been here a while.
Okay, so I'm really intrigued as to how you started your journey in this career.
Yeah, so when I left university, I always knew that I wanted to be in a career sort of like supporting people, but I didn't really know what that looked like, and I think I had what a lot of people have in terms of like, I have no idea like what I want to do after university. So I ended up basically just applying for loads of different things and ended up just getting the internship here just out of pure luck, I guess.
Really?
And it was in the catering department, so very different to what I'm doing now and very different to what I did with my degree. They basically just had loads of ones where you just got like randomly assigned. And while I was doing that, we basically had the opportunity to do obviously a few things with like student engagement, that kind of thing, and then once that came to an end, again I was just kind of looking for that next step, and I knew that I wanted to stay working through university, so I ended up doing admin for the enterprise team, and that was really, really great. Like, so the enterprise team, if you don't know about it, is like a team where we supported students with self-employment, and obviously from there we basically were doing stuff like, we did like events, we did like workshops, we did like loads of different things, which I really, really enjoyed, and I felt like we were helping people obviously with starting their own businesses, but I was more of the behind the scenes, like admin, that kind of thing, like helping out, whereas I knew that like eventually I wanted to do something where I was actually the one like doing the advising rather than being behind the scenes, if that makes sense. So eventually I did that for a few years. COVID happened, and obviously with COVID we didn't have a social life, so I was like, this is the opportunity to try and get like some sort of extra qualification. So I ended up doing a careers coaching course at Derby, at like Uni of Derby, and that was really interesting. It was really good. We basically a lot of it, because it was like online learning, we did, because COVID, it was like a lot of online lectures, a lot of like online seminars, and then I did part of it's like doing a placement, which I did at Hallam because obviously I already worked here, and so that was like shadowing the careers advisors and that kind of thing, and then obviously after I'd completed that, luckily there was some jobs advertised here being careers advisor. It worked out really well timing wise, so applied for it and here I am a few years later. So that's kind of, I guess, that journey. But I think it's like, you know, for me it was very, and you'll have this a lot with like careers, like it was very like non-linear, like I didn't just go into one thing, it just kind of, a lot of opportunities just fell at my door when I needed them to.
Right. Yeah, that's quite a unique journey, I'd say. So how does that tie into with you getting into LLB law?
Yeah, so I did my law degree, so obviously you do your A-levels. I did A-levels in law, history, English and sociology. I enjoyed all of them, and I feel like I enjoyed law the most, I guess. And obviously, like, I think, and now retrospectively I know a lot more and probably wouldn't think this way, but it was like, oh, law, that will naturally lead to a job better than maybe some of the other topic areas. So I was like, oh well, I'll go do a law degree, like that kind of thing. And I enjoyed elements of it, but I also really didn't enjoy other elements of it. Like, being in law is obviously it's a very stressful area. It's very competitive. A lot, like, I feel like you are either someone who really enjoys being in that environment or you don't. So whilst I enjoyed a lot of my degree and learning about it, like, it's a lot different learning in theory than actually like practicing it, like, you know, in like your career afterwards. So after that, like, I was kind of like not really sure what I wanted to do, which is how I then again sort of stumbled upon the internships, because it was just kind of like, oh, that's advertised, I want to stay in Sheffield, like, let's just see where it goes from there. So yeah, like I think even if you do, and I was a bit worried like, oh, have I wasted like a few years doing my law degree to then not do law like whatsoever? But like you still learn loads of skills that like have been really valuable like in my first job. So like even though, you know, like if you do a degree and you don't go quite into what you were expecting to, like that doesn't mean you've wasted your years. Like you've still developed all those different skills. So that's kind of like how that happened.
Yeah, you've still got the experience, I guess, haven't you?
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, even though I didn't end up going into law, and who knows, maybe one day in the future, got a long career ahead of me, but yeah, like it was still really valuable to do, I think.
So with them experiences, how important would you say it is for students to go through like placements and do stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's really important for like a few different reasons. So I guess like the obvious one is kind of like that career development and like skill development. So obviously like when you're applying for jobs, like at the end of the day, like if you think about everyone who's on your course and then everyone in the university surrounding who are also doing a very similar course to you, that is a lot of people you are competing with for jobs at the end of the day. The more experience you can do whilst you're a student, the more you can put on your CV and the more it's going to make you stand out against other people who haven't done anything. So on one hand, like just in terms of like your own like skill development and your CV, it looks good to employers that you've done some sort of extracurricular experience. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like, I know there's like a big thing around placement years. Placement years are really, really great, obviously, but you know, like smaller piece of experience like that still counts towards it. So like a summer internship, a week shadowing, like something like that can still be really useful. But on the other hand, so you've got like the actual like employability side of it in terms of like making yourself employable by having it on your CV. But on the other hand, like for your own personal development as well, sometimes like I don't think we know what we want to do sometimes until we actually go and experience it. Because what we think, and again I had this kind of like with law, like I went to work in the law department of my local council, and like I mean they were lovely there and it was great, but I was kind of sat there and I was like, I really don't think this is for me. Like we were just we were sat in this office all day just looking over like, you know, just it was kind of boring to be honest. And like I was just, and that made me realise like maybe that isn't the area for me. But had I have not done that, I could well have ended up like doing something I didn't want to do or didn't enjoy because I'd not had that little bit of experience first. So I think it's like important. Yes, it looks good on your CV, but also just so you get to know like what you do and don't enjoy. Like we don't really know that until like we actually go and experience it. If that makes sense?
Absolutely, yeah. Everything you've said there, I feel like I can resonate with in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I personally have no idea what I want to do when I'm growing up. I mean, this course is sort of something that I enjoy and could, but even now I still, you never know, do you? You can't prepare for what's around the corner. So for me personally, I've had a few jobs over the last few years. I've tried different things. I've had a gap year. I'm really enjoying this course at the minute, to be fair, and I've got a job whilst at uni, but I found, you know, I've gone into jobs thinking I'm going to really enjoy this, and it's not. I've actually found out it's not actually for me, and then there's been other jobs where I've been a bit under pressure and had to use skills that I probably wouldn't in other jobs, and maybe wouldn't even say is some of my stronger suits. Yet I've come out that job feeling more confident in that area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find it really interesting what you've said there about how if you don't necessarily know what the end goal is, at least try different things in the meantime to try and boost that opportunity of finding that.
Yeah.
So would you say it's important rather than just sort of waiting for that moment to come and that light bulb moment, that day you wake up and do know what you want to do? You think it's really important to, in that time, do a bit of research, try something new, take a risk here and there?
Yeah, 100%. I think like you just, I mean, obviously you don't know what's around the corner in terms of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
But like you say, I think being proactive in finding those opportunities and being proactive in like trying to like do that work experience and stuff is really, really important. Because like you say, like I really don't know, I think you do 100% know what you want to do until you're actually in the office or whatever doing it, because it can be, especially at university, like learning it in theory can be a lot different to actually like doing a job. So and obviously we're in like our careers for so long, like it's always worth trying to find something you enjoy doing. And that's part of the reason why I was kind of like wanted to become a careers advisor, because I was in the position of I don't know what I want to do, and like I wish I'd have known some of the stuff I know now when I was first searching for jobs and like that kind of thing. So it's almost like rewarding for me to feel like I'm helping other people through that journey, like you know, that, yeah.
Yeah, so you give some good advice there, like how to be proactive and what
Yeah.
you should do. What would you say is probably the best piece of advice you could give for a student? Just
Yeah, I think if you're applying, like when you're actually applying for roles, like the big thing is that we would probably always say is like tailoring things. So like for example, if you are finding work experience, like you'd be sending out, for example, like emails to lots of different companies. If you don't tailor it to that company, like that is just going to go straight in the bin. And we've had feedback before from employers that like that is what they're looking for, is that tailored, like they like to see that you've put the effort in. Now on one hand, like obviously it can take a lot of time to do that, like it is time consuming, but on the other hand it's like, you know, you're probably more likely to get stuff back if you're putting in that extra effort. So it's just having to think about like balancing your time. But I'd say like tailoring stuff definitely, and obviously coming to see us as well, like at the end of the day this is what we're here for, you know, like we have like every single year we get students come along, they've applied for loads of things, not heard anything back, we check their CV or whatever, and it's like, oh actually there's quite a few improvements to be made. Like why waste your time? Like why waste your time applying for things when you can come see us first and get it checked by a professional? Like you literally might as well, like we have so many appointments, drop-ins, like that kind of thing, like we want to support you, you know. So like I think like in terms of big advice, like make sure you're tailoring it and like come see us first if like
So I'm also intrigued, are there any common mistakes, or is there one in particular that students make when writing CVs or cover letters?
I mean I think again going back to the tailoring thing, I think that is the biggest mistake we see, and especially like when it comes to stuff like skills, for example. So like something we see quite often is like say if a student's had a part-time job, that's probably maybe the only time they've made a CV before. If you are working like, you know, as a retail assistant at New Look, like that is very different skills to if you were like working, for example, doing a podcast or like making a radio and stuff. So like sometimes it's putting skills that you are relevant to the job itself. So like for example, if you have got like cash handling or like customer service, like you don't need those skills if you are creating a podcast or working on the radio. So I think it's just like the big mistake is not tailoring it to that specific area. So like I'd always recommend having a look at the job description. Normally they'll make it easy for you. At the end of the day, they'll have like a list of skills that they need from you, like make it easy for them to go like, here's these skills, like we're matching up, you know. So I think that's probably like the biggest mistake, is like not putting the time and effort in just to do that. And like I say, it can take a little bit of time, but if you're applying for very similar roles, at the end of the day, they're going to need similar skills. So, you know, once you've done it once, you're probably not going to have to be changing it like all the time.
I'm probably guilty of doing that, to be fair. So I think it's something that's overlooked slightly, but perhaps.
I think it's very easy to do, because at the end of the day, like especially when you're students, like you have very limited time. Like it is a lot of effort to go through and like tailor it in that way. But I think it's better putting in like a few quality applications than just loads and loads of applications and it just like not go anywhere.
I agree with that, because myself, I've been applying for jobs out through uni. I've just probably spent more time sending them out rather than looking at it and making it tailored to them. So that's probably where I've been going wrong, as many other people have.
Yeah.
So
it's easy to do, isn't it? It's funny really, because the actual job is a potential career path that you could be working in for 20-30 years, yet we overlook the idea of just spending an extra 20 minutes making it more tailored to them. But obviously, I mean, even now, personally, I don't know about you, Ben, but I'll probably be going back this evening and changing a few things on it, because it's little things like that just seem like, obviously to you, you've seen it all now, it's probably to you second nature. But
do you know, it's funny you say that, actually, because like sometimes like at least I do, like I forget how much I do know, you know. That makes sense, like because you do it like every day for your job. You're like, to me this stuff's like really obvious, but I forget, like, you know, I mean, I remember when I went for my first careers appointment at uni, I took my CV and they were literally like, is this it? Like that was the words they said to me, like, really? Is this it? And I was like, oh my gosh. Whereas now, like, you know, like, I mean, I never say that to a student anyway, but like my point being, like, you know, you don't know what you don't know, sort of thing. So it's interesting you guys say that, because like again, to me it's second nature, but like for you that isn't obvious, and like you do need somebody to kind of like give you that advice.
Yeah, I feel like I've just learned loads just from listening to you doing this podcast, and I definitely will be changing stuff when I get back. And I was just like, I can just imagine how helpful one of the appointments would be, and I was just wondering if you're gonna, what like would you be doing if you're wandering around the Pathways event?
Yeah, so for us as careers advisors, when we go to Pathways, I guess our main kind of priority is speaking to the employers there. So like every year, obviously at Pathways, we get creative employers in. It's a really good opportunity for us to get a bit of an idea of like what's going on in the industry itself. So like what are they what sort of jobs they're advertising, and especially around the recruitment process as well, like what are they expecting from you as students. So like it can help us inform you by getting informed ourselves by talking to employers. So generally speaking, I'd be kind of going around, obviously introducing myself, asking about the opportunities, asking what they'd expect in an application, and yeah, that kind of thing. I think a big thing as well at the moment is, which I will be asking about when we go to Pathways this time, is like AI as well, because we've heard a lot of stuff about like you get into a point with employers sometimes where like AI's become such a big thing when you're applying for jobs, almost like they're struggling with the applications because they're all starting to sound the same because everyone's putting it through like AI, and yeah, which is really interesting because obviously AI, especially like we were saying with the time consuming, like AI does make it a lot easier, like it's less time consuming if you're putting it through AI, but equally it's not your voice, and also it might end up being that lots of applications end up sounding the same because everyone's using AI, and obviously AI does have a certain, sometimes you can tell when something's been written by AI. So I think like one of the big questions I'll be asking this time is like, what are their, like, how do they feel about AI applications? Like, would they, because sometimes actually now, like if you're not using AI for an application, you're probably going to stand out more because you've not used it. Yeah, exactly, because you've got your personality in there. So that's probably one of the things that I've not asked before, but I will ask this time because it's just like a big, it's like the new topic of the moment.
Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind, to be fair. It's like, it's everywhere, isn't it? AI seems to be taking over a little bit, but could you almost like you said at the end there, almost, it's one of those cases where, as great as AI is, once everyone is jumping on that trend, it's actually almost a good chance to show your personality even more and try and. Would you say that's a big thing to try and do? Yeah,
I think so, because they are hiring. Obviously, they're hiring you based on skills and stuff like that, but like they are hiring you based on you as well. And definitely. The thing is, in a way, obviously you'll go to interview, and that's where they'll be chatting to you anyway. So sometimes it's good to get your personality across earlier than when you go to interview. And like you say, it might end up making you stand out because you have put that time in, and they can see that, and they're probably going to be like, maybe even more favourable because you've taken the time to put that application in. So yeah, it's kind of it's the two sides of like, on one hand, time saving and efficiency, especially if it ends up going through a application tracking system, that kind of thing. But on the other hand, by taking that time to put in that application, like you might be looked at more favourably because you have put the effort in, I guess. It's kind of interesting, but that's what I want to have a chat with them about, like what are their views on it, because we obviously as advisors get limited opportunities to talk to employers, so like it's a really good opportunity for us to have a chat with them and see like what's going on.
That'd be quite interesting actually to see what
they
say. I'm assuming there'll be a bit of a variety of answers, perhaps even different jobs.
Well, exactly,
if I'm thinking off the top of my head, like maybe teaching, teaching, if you're getting that personality across, then those are skills that are quite crucial, whereas if in other jobs maybe they would prefer just a nice structured do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think like especially for the big recruitment schemes and like certain like you say, certain subject areas, AI is probably going to be a lot more like preferable over those personalised applications, and sometimes depending on the company as well, like companies that are getting thousands and thousands of applications, like compared to maybe a local company who would get like 10 applications, it can be quite different. So like you say, it can really depend on like company to company.
Okay, so do you believe employers use AI to filter CVs, and if so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, a lot of them do, especially like I was going to say a lot of the time it's the big recruitment schemes, but actually more and more like smaller employers are using it as well. Especially nowadays, there's just so many people applying for so many jobs. They basically, we call it like an ATS or an application tracking system. And basically like employers will take your CV when you apply for it, run it through this system, and a lot of the time it's like if you're not mentioning certain skills, like it just won't even be seen by a real person.
Oh, that's real interesting.
Yeah, so this again, going back to the tailoring thing, the big topic of today. Yeah, if you're not tailoring your applications, again, you might be missing out, because if you're not using certain words like they've used in the job description or certain skills, it might be that your CV just gets filtered out because it's not using those keywords. Whether or not employers should use it isn't interesting. Like at the end of the day, like if you're getting like lots and lots of applications, like you know, then there might well need to be a way to filter them down. So I can see why employers do use it, because you know, if you are getting hundreds of applications, like they do need a way to filter them down a little bit. And even like for small companies who use it, like, you know, if you're like working somewhere where there's only like 10 employees, like for somebody to sit and go through every single application without that initial filtering, like it is a big time sink. So I do get why they use it, but obviously it can mean that potentially they miss out on somebody really great because of the system filtering them first. But I guess that's then down to us, like applying for things to make sure we're making it easy for them to get our CV filtered through, like put through that initial filter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, interesting one on that one actually. I remember a previous job I had at McDonald's actually. It wasn't necessarily exactly what you've just spoken about in regards to the CV being filtered through. I think that still got sent off, but interestingly, McDonald's and one of my other jobs, you've had to answer a series of questions going into the job.
Yeah.
So, and I suppose with that sometimes I think there's an answer that you should put, but there's also an answer that I maybe would put. And I found myself putting these robotic answers to try and, because you want to get the job at the end of the day, you've got to compete. And I remember the role I was applying for was, I think it was in the kitchen just making food. And then over time, once my personality got out over the course of 6 months, I slowly started finding my way taking the food out to customers, working on the drive-through, chatting to customers. So I think that's sort of an example where sometimes you're needed in a certain role and they're asking you these questions for it. It's a bit of a shame really, because if you actually were able to be a bit more expressive, they might have seen earlier on, oh, perhaps you're more suited to this role and things like that. But no, I do find it interesting, like you said as well, with the big companies. Obviously that does make sense. There probably is a lot of companies out there that would need something like this to save them a lot of time and money when we're talking big businesses. But it's interesting as well that you're saying even like smaller, more local businesses now are starting to use that as well. It's definitely an interesting topic that I feel like obviously it's so new as well. Like it's going to be ever evolving at the moment. I mean, do you two use AI much for like, I guess like anything really? Like
sometimes if I'm just checking my work and, or I just need a rephrase of something, I'll use it. But it is helpful. I can see the benefits from it. But at the same time, it seems like it could be cutting out a whole aspect of a CV in some sort of way, or missing out a personality in someone's responses.